People like that vegan teacher, that vegan teacher's daughter, and other people who are vegans online have been trying to force people into turning vegan, saying that veganism is helping the world by ending animal cruelty. However, I think that everyone becoming vegan could do more harm than good in the long run. I have a theory that complete veganism of humans could destroy the world as we know it, and maybe cause a mass extinction of not just humans, but several types of animals as well. So first off, what is veganism to be exact? Veganism is a dietary choice where you don't eat anything that comes from an animal. This is different from being vegetarian, which is when you don't eat animal meat, but you still eat products created from animals, like milk and eggs. There are two main reasons for becoming vegan, which are beliefs and dietary needs. Some people may become vegan because they believe the farming industry is cruel, or they worship a religion that forbids the consumption of animals. Others may have become vegan because they want to become healthier or lose weight. And there's a slight chance that you were born with the inability to consume animal products properly at all. No matter what the reason, vegans, like everyone else, can choose what they eat or don't eat. It's their choice. Though, I don't like how some vegans try to force their ideals onto others. Everyone can choose what they want to eat or not, and you shouldn't try to hurt them or make them feel bad because of what they eat. So, what are the pros of being vegan? Well, one pro of being vegan is that most plants don't have a lot of fats and lipids in them. This can reduce cholesterol in your body, giving you a lower risk of heart problems. Plants also give a fuller feeling to them than most meats. This is because certain plants can soak up water and fluid inside your stomach to expand, which also presses on the receptors in your stomach that tell you how full you are. Another pro is that plants give you more energy than meats do. Have you ever as a child plucked a flower and sucked on the stem because it was sweet? The reason for that sweetness is because plants naturally create sugars for energy through the process of photosynthesis. So whenever you eat plants, you're getting that natural sugar from the plants that break down into energy in your body. We talked about the pros, but what about the cons of being vegan? There are 4 forms of consumers in our world, which are carnivores, aka meat eaters, omnivores, aka meat and plant eaters, herbivores, aka plant eaters, and decomposers, aka creatures that eat the dead. Humans, also known as Homo sapiens, are all born as omnivores, which means we all must eat both a balance of plants and animals to stay healthy. Even cavemen ate naturally occurring plants in the wild to survive, which is why they were called hunters and gatherers. One reason we eat animals is because meats have proteins in them, which is the most functional of the 4 biomolecules of the earth. Proteins can be enzymes that help you break down food, help with signaling of hormones to help you grow, and they even have a giant factor in your birth traits like your hair, skin, and eye color. Lack of protein in someone can cause major damage, including swelling, increased infection vulnerability, and skin deterioration. It can also cause weakness and fatigue in your body, and muscle growth is close to impossible to keep up. Don't get me wrong, some plants have a lot of protein in them, for example, beans, tofu, and peanuts, but not enough to sustain you every day, unless you overeat those kinds of foods. Another con is malnutrition. Because plants give you a fuller feeling faster, you're less likely to eat the needed amount of calories you need a day. And a lot of vegetables have very few calories, which is worse because you are getting full with very few calories that go to the growth and development of your well-being. And malnutrition is a big deal. About 25,000 people every day die from starvation or malnutrition. Most of the countries where these people die are developing countries, which don't have as much meat in their diets because they aren't economically ready for all those big farms that produce meat. So most of the population eats more plants instead of meats in those countries, causing them to die of malnutrition. So we went over what is veganism and the pros and cons of being vegan. But why is it that if everyone turned vegan, it could destroy the world, you may be asking? At the beginning of the video, I stated that I had a theory that complete veganism could destroy the world and cause a mass extinction. I bet you are wondering why this is the case. Well, we are going to talk about that now. Number 1. Veganism can hurt the body. Because our body needs meat to survive, if everyone turned vegan, no one would be getting the proteins or fats they need in their bodies, which will cause the human population to become fatigued, weak, and have multiple health problems. Not to mention, almost everyone would be way too skinny and possibly most of the population would die from malnutrition. Number 2. Invasive species. Most farm animals are domesticated species that we created, meaning that most don't belong in the wild because they would be invasive species. Invasive species are animals that humans put into a part of the wild that they don't belong, which then multiply and outcompete the native species so much that they could end up harming the ecosystem and possibly causing different species of animals to go extinct. An example is the zebra mussels in the United States. This invasive species was introduced to the United States from Poland and Russia due to it latching onto ships that were going to the United States. This small creature has helped endanger the native mollusk population, threatens the well-being of larger animals like turtles and crayfish, and has cost millions of dollars from companies which try to control the population. Well, cows and pigs and chickens couldn't be that dangerous, could they? They're just poor, innocent creatures that don't hurt other animals. They belong in the wild. I'm sorry, but they simply don't. A single cow could eat about 30 pounds worth of plants a day. So imagine if millions were just set free suddenly into the wild. Pigs are the most reproductive and fertile farm animals, with one single female pig having about 20 piglets every time she gives birth. And chicken eggs could have salmonella when laid, which means if an egg gets into a water source, it could contaminate the whole thing, making it undrinkable, unless you are okay with drinking salmonella water. They could easily outcompete us, not only because they eat so much, have so much offspring, and they can contaminate water sources, but because they are also herbivores and we are not. So they are born to eat only plants while we are not. So they would have way more strength and energy than us if it came to a one-on-one fight for a food source. Number 3. Multiple famines. Let's say that you somehow made everyone vegan. Now about 8 billion people are eating only plants. Everyone even promises to never hurt an animal ever again, no matter what the circumstances are. That is a giant problem. You see, there's a thing called the food web. The food web shows how food is distributed to each organism in an ecosystem. And some of these organisms are something called a keystone species, These species are so important to the structure of the web that if anything happened to them, all the other organisms would be affected too. Humans are considered a keystone species because they keep a lot of the animal and plant parts of the ecosystem balanced. Let's say that half of everyone's diet is animals and the other half are all sorts of plants. This is just an example, of course. And then let's say that everyone made their diets 100% plants. Now, not only are we eating way more plants than usual, but we aren't keeping the herbivore animal population in check, meaning that the animal populations will keep growing and growing out of control and eating more and more plants just like us. At some point, there will not be enough plants to sustain all the animals and humans, which will cause many of them to end up dying from a massive famine. This is called limiting factors, which states that a population can only grow as big as food, water, and other sources allow it to. If the population grows past the limiting factors, a lot of the population will die because there aren't enough survival sources for everyone. This is exactly what happened in Yellowstone Park when the wolves were killed off and no other animal could control the deer population. They kept just reproducing and eating until most of them died due to famine since the ecosystem was no longer good for surviving. When the ecosystem started to get better, the whole thing with the deer started all over again, which continues over and over. If we didn't start killing animals again, we would be in a constant loop of famines. Number 4. No way of farming. How about we just grow more plants? We would be fine if we did that, wouldn't we? Actually, I don't think we would be able to, I'm afraid. Even now, in current history, there are many reports of backbreaking labor in farms just to keep their plant farms healthy. There are even places where child labor on farms is perfectly fine, where most of the children die due to the harsh environment they have to work in on the farms. That is when we have a bunch of strong people doing it. But what if we weren't strong enough to do that anymore? Because we would be so weak without any protein, we couldn't sustain the farms as well anymore. So we need to farm and produce more plants, but no one is strong enough to do it. So we couldn't do that as a solution to the famine. And not to mention if there was an animal infestation at the farm. You swore never to harm an animal, so how could you get rid of the animals eating the food you need to survive? You can't push them away or scare them off because you'd be too weak and tired to do so. So I guess they're going to just eat your food then, the food you need to survive. Number 5. Destroying the soil. Even if we were still able to farm, we would destroy more of the soil by farming so much. Soil can only grow so many plants before it becomes no longer fertile for farm growth. So we would be destroying not only the soil, but any chance that it would grow any other plants in the future. Though I do admit, there are some farmers who sometimes set fire to their fields to destroy all the bad crops, which then becomes fertilizer for the new crops. But the thing is, there's a high chance that you could accidentally hurt an animal when doing this, which means that option would not be allowed because it would break your promise to never hurt an animal no matter what. So, our diet has made us weak and fatigued. Your own body is trying hard not to die from malnutrition. There are too many animals eating the same thing. There are multiple famines everywhere. You can't create more food to stop the famines, and if you could, you would just end up killing the soil at some point. the chance of the human population and other species surviving is very little. Not to mention, we'd be destroying more of the earth just trying to keep everyone alive. You are probably regretting now that everyone has promised never to hurt or kill an animal ever again. And for everyone who thinks that evolution would help save us, there's a high chance that everyone would be dropping dead before evolution could occur. So what could we do to stop all that from happening in the future? It's simple. Let people eat what they want. Don't be upset that someone prefers meat over plants or plants over meat. Don't bully people for what they prefer to eat or not eat. It's their choice, so don't force people to become vegan or any other diet if they don't want to. And I know that the farming industry for meat may be cruel, but we can find other ways to make the farms less cruel. We could find ways to make the animals happier, or ban very cruel and inhumane practices, but that doesn't mean you still can't have meat. And if you 100% don't like the farming industry and you want meat, maybe you could learn how to hunt. There's probably many types of hunting classes for people who want to learn how to hunt for their own food. Be vegan if you want, but don't tell people that everyone has to be vegan. And don't force people to be vegan if they do not want to. It's their choice, just like it's your choice to be vegan. Thank you so much for watching this video, and here's the end result of me painting that vegan teacher, but a little bit younger, and not as obsessed with converting people to veganism. I may have accidentally made the skin tone a little bit too dark compared to hers, but I still think it looks really beautiful. Thank you for watching and have a really great day. Also, I wonder if that vegan teacher quote-unquote grades honor and AP students. Someone go ask her for me, please. I'd like to know. That would be fun if she actually did that. Imagine her grading a theory like this on her channel. I wonder how that reaction would go down.